Now, when I first started my KDP journey, I had everything going on against me. Everything was against me. I had nothing. Now, listen, usually when we start, we have two things, right? We have, well, the first thing is obviously time, okay? Because either we can do the things and we can actually, if we have the skill to make book covers and writing and all of that, we can do it ourselves. So time is one of the assets we have. The second asset is money. Now, when I first started, guess which one of these I had? None of them. I had no time and no money. Well, I did have, but they were very, very limited. And that's what everyone has. Everyone has time, but most of you might have limited time. Everyone has money, but most of you might have limited amount of money. I was making around $200 a month. Now, I wrote per day. I wish I was making 200 a day back then, but I was making 200 a month. Now, where did this 200 a month come from? Well, I actually had multiple sources of income. I felt like a millionaire, even though I was making only $200 a month. So what were my income sources? Well, first of all, I had 12 books on KDP. Now, bear in mind, this is my first year on KDP. Did I know anything about business? I knew nothing about business. I knew nothing about KDP. I'm going to show you exactly, literally, when I tell you the story, you're going to see how incompetent I was. I knew nothing. If you're watching this, you know more than me than what I knew back then. And I was still able to go from $200 to $2,000. And I'll show you what I learned. But this is my first year. My first year, I had 12 books. Now, what type of books did I have? Whatever you can think of. All of these 12 books, I did something called niche jumping. Now, this is something I would recommend you avoid. Can I use a positive and a negative in a sentence? I guess so. I would recommend that you avoid niche jumping. What does this mean? Niche jumping means you have a different book in a different niche. So instead of you going deep inside one niche and conquering the niche, you go broad and you publish one book in every niche and hopefully one of those books works. And that was my strategy because I'm still in year one. I still don't know what I'm doing. Now, out of these 12 books, 11 of the books were not making any sales and one of the books was bringing in around $200 a month. So I had $200 a month that I was making from KDP. But guess what? My ads for KDP, I had to also pay for the ads. This takes around 60 days to actually pay. Amazon KDP pays you 60 days after you made the money. So sometimes when my ads were higher, I didn't have money to pay for the ads. So $200 was roughly my ads as well. So that means I was actually breaking even with my KDP business. So I would break even. Great. So if I'm breaking even with the KDP business and I'm making basically $0, how am I getting $200 a month? Well, this is where the time comes in because my time was limited as well. Do you know why? Because I was stuck in the army. Where I'm from Cyprus. I'm currently living in Cyprus. In Cyprus, it's mandatory to do the army. That means I have to do the army for 14 months. Well, guess what? I can't bring a laptop inside the army and start running my KDP business in the army. So I had very, very, very limited time. But the best part is because it's mandatory, they give you a little bit of extra, I don't know, time, I guess. I don't know what the army is like in America, but in Cyprus, you go in the army, sometimes you'll come out once a week and sometimes you'll come out 2 times a week. And when you do come out, twice a week or once a week, you come out at 2 p.m. and then you basically go back at 8 a.m. the next day. So essentially I had from 2 p.m. until midnight. And then that means I had around 10 hours a day. If I came out twice a week, I had 20 hours a week to actually spend on KDP. So every time I came out of the army and I actually got to work on my business, I only had 20 hours to spend on the business a week. Not a lot of time. Now, the good thing is, even though I only had 20 hours, the army actually paid me some money. Now, guess how much the army paid me every single month for doing mandatory army services? $200 a month. And that's how I was making money. So my business was breaking even. I'm trying to run a business inside the army with limited time. And I can only actually fix things in my business or scale my business or focus on my new book 20 hours a week when I can come out of the army. So my time was limited and my money was limited, but I was still able to go from $200 a month in the army to $2,000 a month. I'm going to show you how I did that. Now, remember, we said 11 of these books weren't making sales. These were random coloring books, activity books. I had some cookbooks. I did a cannabis cookbook and then I realized, oh, I can't advertise cannabis on Amazon. So that's another 3 months wasted. So I'm losing money here. I don't know what I'm doing here. But I had one book that was actually breaking even. It was making some sales. It was helping me have some hope. And this book was a dating book for men. Did I know anything about dating? Absolutely not. I was actually single. I didn't know anything about dating. But I actually created a quality book. And the value inside the book was good because I understood psychology. So I was researching psychology a lot. I love psychology. And then I applied that to the book for a dating book for men. And then because I talked about psychology, got good reviews, the book was starting to rank, and then it was breaking even, which is good because I wasn't losing money. The last thing I wanted to do was lose money because I'm barely surviving on $200 a month. But what was the first step that I took to actually scale the business and reach 2,000? Well, let me show you what I did. So remember, I had 12 books on Amazon KDP, and only one of them was making money. Okay, so when I saw this, I thought, okay, most of my books aren't making money. Why is most of my books not making money? Well, one of the things I realized is this dating book, I actually spent 6 months writing it because I didn't have money to pay a ghostwriter. So I spent 6 months writing it. Everything else, I spent way less than 6 months. For some of the books, I spent like 15 days. For other books, there were some coloring books, I spent like 7 days. There's other cookbooks, I spent 30 days doing it. This one, I spent the most amount of time actually creating the books. 6 months was actually just writing it. So that's not even like the book cover, the description, the keywords, everything else that needs to happen. The book where I spent the most amount of time made me the most amount of money. This is what I realized. Now, here's one thing that really helped me out back then. One of the worst things about having to manage 12 books is that this is very stressful. And I'm sure if you have multiple books, you understand how stressful it is to run 12 books at a time. Now, not only is it stressful, but you also get a bunch of anxiety as well. I had so much anxiety, I couldn't sleep at night. I'm in the army as well, trying to manage 12 books. So I have the army going on and managing 12 books. So this was just not a good option for me. This was not sustainable. So just by looking at this, my initial idea was, let me just forget about all of this, leave this since it's working, and then I'm going to focus on my next book. However, my next book has to be better than this book. Now, better doesn't mean I have to spend more time on it, but this has to be more valuable. I wanted my next book, I wanted it to, if this book doesn't succeed, I'm going to quit KDP. That's what I thought. So I'm in the army and I'm thinking, okay, how am I going to make my next book the best book in that niche? I want it to be the best. I want it to be the most valuable book because I didn't want to give myself an excuse as to why I didn't make money. I want to give as much effort as possible. I want to put all my energy into one book. So that's exactly what I did. I basically stopped the ads for all of these books. I forgot about these books. I let them just lie back, and then I just focused on the next book, actually making it as high quality as possible because I didn't really put enough effort in these, and it would take more effort from me to fix these instead of just making a new book good from the start. So my plan was to make the best book possible in the niche. Now with this method, I eliminated all the stress that I had because I'm not trying to manage 12 books. I have one book that's managing itself, and then I can focus all of my energy, which is very important. I focused all of my energy on one book because when you focus your energy, when you have focused energy, this ends up becoming a better product. When you have scattered energy, you have a little bit of energy to distribute to each book. I hope that makes sense. I know this isn't a spiritual channel. We're not talking about spirituality and energy, things and frequencies here, but we are talking about KDP. So when you're working, if you focus your energy on one book, you're going to have a much better result with this one book. Focused energy always wins. Now, I had no idea what book I was actually going to make. Again, I had no idea about KDP. I just got lucky with my first book because it was high quality. But my second book, I call it the second serious book. These weren't very serious. But my second serious book, I wanted to make it as best as possible. So I needed to make sure that I could make it as best as possible. Again, I had no idea what I was going to publish, but everything was about to change. I'll show you how. So since I'm in the army and my plan is to make the best book possible, the good thing is I had a lot of time to actually research. Now, I didn't need my computer to research. I could do it on my phone. I would just go on Amazon and any idea I had, I would just search it on Amazon and see what the niche looks like. Did I know anything about research? Nothing. I knew nothing. I didn't even know research was a thing. I literally just typed in random words. I saw a book and I'm like, that seems like an interesting book. Let me publish it. Again, I had no idea what I was doing. I'm still on my first year. Now I've been doing it for over 8 years. So I know what I'm doing now. But back then, first year, no idea, no clue. So here's how I actually figured out the niche that I was going to publish in that's going to help me get to $2,000 a month. So essentially, I wanted to make a book that's actually better than everyone else's. So the book just had to be better. That was literally my only criteria. So I know you guys are doing like niche research and using all these softwares and things. I had no idea about any of that back then, and I was still able to make 2,000. Now, I know you might be thinking, but everything was different back then. It was different. However, the principles that I'm about to talk about right now, the things that I know now that I did correct, back then I didn't know what was correct and what wasn't correct. Now I know what's correct and what isn't correct. Well, 90% of the time. Obviously, there's always more room for improvement. But anyway, back then, I had no idea about anything. So I didn't even know what research was. The only criteria I had is that I wanted to find a niche where I can make a book that's better than everyone else's. That's the only thing I cared about. So that's how I based my niche research. And this is exactly how I found my niche. So essentially, I ended up spending days and weeks just thinking about the niche and researching the niche on my phone all day, every day in the army. I'm standing there with my gun, saving the base or protecting the base at like 2 o'clock in the morning. And I'm literally hiding my phone in my pocket so I can do niche research while I'm in the army. So crazy. I needed to make money, okay? Because eventually I was going to leave the army and I did not want to go back to a job. What I ended up doing, I spent days researching my niche and I couldn't find anything until one day I was sitting there talking to a friend of mine in the army. We're still friends to this day. We've been friends for a long time, but he did the army with me because remember it's mandatory, so everyone has to do it. So good thing is I had friends in the army. This friend came to me one day and he was talking about this weird niche that, not even about books, just a weird niche that he was into. And this was the sneaker niche. So he loved sneakers. He loved Nike shoes, Adidas shoes, things like that. He loved it. Now, we're having a conversation about shoes. And then I'm like, okay, so how much are the Nike shoes? And he's like, 120 euros. And I thought, who is paying 120 euros for shoes? 200 euros was the money I was making on KDP. I couldn't even imagine putting my whole month's salary on a pair of shoes. And the average salary here in Cyprus is 1,000. So imagine, it's still 10% of your salary on shoes. I couldn't even believe it. I was like, these guys are idiots buying this. The thing that I realize now is that my ego was actually stopping me back then. Because I thought, well, I would never buy these shoes, so I don't think anyone else would. That's not how the world works. That's what I discovered anyway. That's not how the world works. The world did not revolve around me. When I started listening to him, one day I was like, okay, let's just see if there's any sneaker books. There must be sneaker books, right? So I go on Amazon and I find 4 sneaker books that are actually selling. Now, here's the thing. These 4 sneaker books, they had some things in common that were very, very powerful. The first thing all of these had in common was that they were old. So these were very, very old books. Obviously, if this was like from 2000, so this happened in 2022 or 2021. So all of these books were created in 2016, 2017. So there was no updated version. Well, guess what? Do you think more sneakers came out from 2017 until 2022? Of course they did. Every year there was new sneakers coming out. And guess what? These sneakerheads, because that's what they're called now that I know about sneakers, these sneakerheads, the people that love sneakers, they know the sneakers that come out every year. But guess what? There was no books with new sneakers. All of them were old. So what I realized is that since all of them are old and they're selling, there's a gap in the marketplace. Not only is there a gap, there's also demand, because I found 4 books that are selling and I found 4 books that are old. So they're old and selling, and the gap is that there's no new ones. So great. This is when I realized, oh, this is research. I didn't know anything about research, but this is when I realized, okay, I should do research before I publish a book. So I saw that the books were old and there was a lot of demand. But there's another very, very, very important thing. Very important thing. The price of these. Do you think the price of these books were low, or do you think the price was high? The price was around $24, which was insane because, yeah, all of these were hardcover, but I understood the printing costs. I didn't want to do hardcover, so I decided to do paperback. Now, with paperback, obviously the printing is less, and I use premium color to justify the paperback. Still nice colored pages. But again, I was still making, if I was to publish it, I would be making around $7 to $10 per sale if I started selling. And to me, this is like, okay, that's good profit margins. So great. I found a niche with a gap. There was demand, but all the books were old. Now, if you're doing niche research, you don't have to find just a niche where everything's old. You can find other ways to compete. It's not just about being old. But if you can find the gap in the marketplace and fill it, that's perfect. That's perfect, because then you make a valuable book and you're good to go. But anyway, I found the gap. I was like, okay, I think I'm going to do the sneaker book. And that's exactly how I figured out, hey, I think I found my niche. So after a week of researching myself, it wasn't up to me. To me, it was God giving me this guy telling me, hey, what about sneakers? And then eventually leading me to finding the niche. So I have to thank God for that. But anyway, what happened afterwards? I figured out my niche. What's the next step to make the best book possible in my niche? Okay, so now we figured out the niche that we're going to make. Now it's actually time to create our book, or well, my book. I had to create my book. Now, when it comes to creating a book, there's actually only 2 aspects of creating a book. There's 2 pieces of a book. You have the interior of the book, and then you also have the book cover. Okay, this is going to be the interior because it's open. This is going to be the book cover because it's closed. I hope this makes sense. Let's draw some lines here as well. There we go, now we know. So again, the only two things that I had in my power was $200 a month and then also 20 hours a week. So this is my only assets that I had to give to my business. Now, when it comes to these two, the first thing I saw was what is the price of the thing I wanted to do. So when it comes to formatting, this book was about sneakers. So it couldn't just be text. And also because different sneakers are different colors and things like that, it had to be a colored interior. Now, because my niche had a high enough price, I could justify a higher price and make up for that extra printing cost for the colored pages. So to me, I wanted text formatted interior. So I want to format the text a very nice way. I also wanted images inside the formatting. And then I also wanted it to be colored. After doing my research and seeing who I could hire, because I had $200 a month, no one would do this effectively for $200 a month. The minimum was around $500 to $700 for something quality. And again, I only wanted to make quality. I didn't want to do anything mediocre. This was my last chance at success because I was about to leave the army and I had to get a job if I leave the army because I can't survive on $200 a month. This was $500, $700, but the book cover was $200. I don't know why I keep writing $200 a day. Now, based on this, I could pick one of the two. I wanted to make it the best possible. So obviously, I couldn't afford the formatting, so I didn't spend $200. I didn't spend my money on formatting, but I could afford the book cover if I paused my ads for a month. Now, remember, my book was breaking even, so what I did, I paused my ads, and eventually I made around $150 in organic sales. So I used this to buy the book cover. So great. Now I'm in the army, and the book cover is being made for me. It took around 7 days for the book cover to be created. Now, I knew a little bit about design, but again, I was in the army, so I couldn't just start using Photoshop and start designing in the army. And I'm not going to design it on my phone either. So this wasn't effective for me. I was forced to get a designer. And it's a good thing that I got a designer because I understood that a designer could probably do a better job than me at that time. I was still in my first year. I still didn't know anything. I bought the book cover designer and now, great. I saved the money on my ads. I used that money to buy the book cover designer. Book cover is sorted. Don't have to worry about it. What I have to worry about is the interior formatting. Now, did I know how to do interior formatting? Absolutely not. But guess what I had? I had 20 hours a week, which was more than enough for me to learn how to use InDesign, which was actually the program that I used to format. You can watch an InDesign tutorial. It's like 3-hour tutorial. So I just sat one day, I watched the entire tutorial, and then I started formatting my book and followed that tutorial. That's how I formatted my book. But before I can format my book, I actually need the initial writing in sight. Now, when it comes to the writing, did I know anything about sneakers? Absolutely not. But guess who did know about sneakers? My friend from the army. And guess who I saw every day, 5 times a week? My friend from the army. And guess who I could spend hours and hours and days with? My friend in the army. In fact, he literally slept next to me. So we could literally just talk about sneakers all day. He was right next to me. My target audience was right next to me. I was so lucky. What I did is I just said, hey, can you just give me a list of 20 sneakers that I can put in the book? And then I'll do the research. I don't want anything else, just the name of the sneakers so I can do the research. And maybe a photo so I know that I'm actually researching the correct one. So that's what he did. He spent like a day researching the shoes, the sneakers. He gave me the list. And then now I had a list to actually start doing my research. Now, the good thing is I had my phone in the army. So I did all the research on my phone. And then I started writing on my phone. Copy, paste, all the facts and things like that. I want to talk about the price of the sneakers. I want to talk about facts about the sneakers, when it was created, what's the retail value, what's the resale value, things like that. And he told me everything. My friend told me everything I need to put inside that sneakerheads are going to be, they're going to like. So great. Now I'm actually creating a quality book and I'm writing it on my phone on Google Docs. Now, while I'm in the army, I'm writing because all I need is my phone. I could just open Google Docs or a Word document on my phone, start writing. And then when I'm at home, these 20 hours a week, I would spend it on formatting. So I had to research the images, find the images, the writing that I wrote in the army, put it in the InDesign file, and then put everything in the correct place. Put the page numbers, all the little elements around, put the images correctly, and yeah, basically do all the formatting. So I'm using my time effectively, and I'm also using my money effectively. But guess what happened when I got the initial book cover? I got the book cover, took 7 days, $200. I loved the book cover. The book cover was so nice. Now check this out. It was kind of like, it was a shoe right here. I can't draw, by the way. I'm just going to draw shapes. I think you guys are going to understand. But there was a shoe right here, and then the text right here, and another text right here. And then little shoes falling in the background. So it was basically shoes falling, and then one main shoe right here in the middle. Now this main shoe was like a very bright blue shoe, and the text was blue as well. So it matched with the text, and I thought, oh, okay, this looks really nice, and I loved the book cover. But here's the problem. I showed my book cover to my friend, and I was so excited to show it to him. But as soon as I showed him the book cover, guess what he said? He said, that book cover is terrible. Now, guess why? Was it design-wise? No. It was the shoe that was featured on the book cover. So what my friend said is, hey, this isn't a very popular shoe, and also the sneaker community doesn't really like this shoe. It looks good on the book cover, but the sneaker community doesn't like it. What they do like is a shoe called the Ben and Jerry's. I don't know if you ever had Ben & Jerry's ice cream, one of the best ice creams in the world. Love Ben & Jerry's, love Ben & Jerry's. But if you had Ben & Jerry's, they did a sneaker collab with Ben & Jerry's. So now Ben & Jerry's has their own sneaker. And back then, this was when it came out, and this was the most popular sneaker. So what did I do? I put it on the book cover. So now, not only did I have a good designed book cover because it looked good from the designer, I also had one that matched or fit with my target market, something that my target market could actually resonate with. So when they see it and they see the Ben & Jerry's, they're like, oh, this released this year. This is a brand new one. They know what they're doing because this is the most popular shoe. I didn't know anything about sneakers, but luckily my friend was a sneakerhead. So I had my target market. So you don't create a book cover just because it looks good. You create a book cover to attract your target market. You make it for them, not for your eyes, but for them. You make it psychologically for them. So if I just stuck with the old shoe, this book might have not made me as much money. But because I understood my market, I gave them what they wanted, what they were looking for, what they were desiring. And then because of the book cover, that was able to help me get to $2,000 a month. But obviously, it's not just the book cover because there's other things to follow as well. We haven't even done the marketing yet. So let's get into the marketing. Okay, so the last part that I had to get right was marketing. Now, marketing was actually something that I thought I was good at. Well, I don't know. Maybe for my first year, I was good at it, but marketing was something that I was actually proud of. So I understood a little bit of copywriting, I understood a little bit of design, and I understood a little bit of value. Because again, I did all the other businesses before. Obviously, all of them failed, but I learned some things from them that I was able to apply to my marketing. Now, one thing I knew for sure that I needed was trust. If I didn't have trust, even though my book was good, if I didn't have a little bit of trust, I wouldn't sell. That's something that I knew back then. Now, the only way we could get trust back then was basically reviews. There was no A+ content back then. There was nothing like that. Reviews was your only bet. Now, I'm going to draw 5, but it's going to take, I'll draw 5. How did I get reviews? Well, I couldn't pay for any websites, for review exchange websites. I couldn't pay for newsletters. I couldn't do any of that back then. I didn't have any money. So what I did is, even though this is unethical, I don't think it's allowed anymore. It wasn't allowed back then, but when you don't have money, you do things you're not really supposed to. You work on a gray area when you don't really have money. But it's okay. Anyway, I basically talked to 7 friends, and then I just said, hey guys, please just download my 99-cent ebook and leave a review. That's the only thing I want. So out of the 7 friends, 7 of them, I think I asked 11 friends, and 7 of them actually left reviews. So great. Now I knew that I'm going to have 7 reviews for my book as soon as I launch. So reviews is sorted. But there's another very, very big thing that basically I was afraid of, and that's Amazon ads, because I knew this cost money, and the only thing I didn't have was money. So I knew that this was going to cost, and I came to a conclusion with myself. I don't know if conclusion is the right word, but I came to a conclusion. I'm going to use conclusion. I came to a conclusion with myself and said, hey, I'm probably going to have to get a 9-to-5 job to get the money so I can have enough money, because cash flow is the most important thing. So I ended up getting another job as a waiter. And then, by the way, at this point, I've never seen $1,000 in my life ever. Never. The maximum I had was around $500. I went to the army, I had jobs and everything. I never saw $1,000. That's basically what I wanted. I just wanted $1,000. So I said, hey, let me get a job. Let me just work for 1 month, get that cash, and then put it in the book. If that doesn't work, then great. I can just go find a full-time job and then live my life working in a job. But anyway, I went to my job, I worked for a month, and I actually made 1.2K my first month. Or I made 700 my first month. I actually stayed for 2 months, and I made 1.2 my second month. Now, I got 700 here because it was a little bit more than half a month, because I started on like the 15th of October or something like that. But I had $700 saved up. I had the 200 that I save every month. So now I had $800 to spend my first month on ads. So I launched the book, published the book, got the reviews, 7 reviews on, launched ads. Were the ads good? No, they were terrible. My ads were so bad, but my book was good. So because my book was good, this first month I sold like 100 copies. First time I ever sold 100 copies, by the way. It was insane to me. I can't remember the money that I made. I don't know if I lost money the first month, But in the second month, I made like $700. That's when I had another 1.2K from my job, put that in the ads, and I made around $700 profit. I was so happy. I was so happy because I got a grant from my job and I got 1.5K in revenue from KDP. So I knew that I made essentially $2,000 that month. And I was like, oh my God, I'm rich. So I loved it. It was absolutely amazing. But I made $700 profit my first month. And then in November, I made 1.2K in profit. I quit my job by this point. As soon as I got that 1K here, I quit my job because that was the first time I saw 1K. That's all I wanted. I quit my job, used that money, put it in, made $700 profit. And then in November, I made 1.2K in profit. And then in December, I made, it was like 3.5K in revenue. I don't know how much in profit, but it was 3.5K in revenue. Again, it was obviously over $1,000 in profit here, but I can't remember exactly the number. But what I saw is I put so much effort in the book before. I had my target market right next to me. And even though I knew nothing about ads and I barely had reviews, the market fit was so perfect, so perfect. I had the best book in the niche, undeniably. Maybe not in quality, maybe not in page count, but in terms of what the market wanted, I had it the best because everyone else was old and I had the good new book. I had the new book with the new sneakers and I had a good sneaker on the cover as well. So I attracted all the sneakerheads. They were like, hey, this book is for me. I love this sneaker. Everyone loved that sneaker. And because it was so good, it did so well on Christmas. I got so many reviews and I was running on like 30 reviews, #1 bestseller badge in January. And this carried on and I was getting like 120 reviews at one point. Once I hit 100 reviews, it stayed steady at 2K revenue per month. And this was my first real book. And the one thing I realized is that every single aspect of publishing, I wanted to do it as best as possible because I gave myself no other option. I wanted to publish the best book in the niche. That was my determining factor of success on them. It wasn't the amount of money I made, it was how good the book was. Now, there were times, the first time I ordered the book, I got it, and some of the images were pixelated. That's when I realized, hey, DPI is a thing. So now I went back, fixed it, 300 DPI for all the images, reordered it, opened the book, crystal clear images, great. I improved the book. And I just kept trying to make it better and better and better. And I stayed at $2,000 a month in revenue. Around 1.2K was in profit. Eventually this went up and then I published another book. And I followed the same strategy and it achieved the same results. And that's when I was able to achieve, finally, in next December, I went to around 16K in revenue and profit was 12K. I spent 4K in ads. Why? Because the book is quality. Now, another reason might be because back then things were different. Of course they were different, but those fundamental things, even if I didn't do them back then, I would not have achieved the same success that I did back then. So this was how I was able to break that $1,000 per month the first time. The first time I just focused on one book, made it as best as possible, with the correct market research. That's very important. Now, before you go, if you want a quick actionable step on what I did, I'll just write it out for you so you can write it in your notes. So here are the good things that I did that really helped me. First one, correct market research. Market research was essential. I had my target audience right next to me. What's the next thing? I found a niche where I actually filled a gap. So I found the gap in the niche and I filled it. I filled it with the correct market research. Because of the correct market research, I found the gap, I filled the gap, and obviously it made me more confident in the book as well to invest more money and more time. I also had focused energy. So I didn't spread myself thin. I gave myself the time that I needed. I wanted to make sure the book was good and I focused all of my energy on it. I can't spell energy. And then finally, I had a market-driven book cover. What does this mean? I made a book cover for my target market because I did the correct market research. So I had a market-driven book cover. Now, my ads were terrible. My ads were not good at all. I literally just targeted all the keywords that might be related to my book. And just because my book was good, it actually scaled because my book was good. My ads were not good. But again, back then it was a little bit different. You should do your ads correctly. But even if you have mediocre ads, if you have a really good book, it's still going to work. It's still going to work out for you. You're still going to collect the data and know how to optimize your ads anyway. But with a bad book, you can't even collect the data to optimize your ads. My trust was very low. I didn't have any trust either. But again, my book was good, fit with the market, so it worked. Now, if you found my story helpful, click on this video. You're going to find it super helpful. This is the first time I ever reached $100,000 with KDP after selling my business. And I'm going to show you how I was able to scale to the point to sell that business. You're going to find it super valuable. But anyway, go out there and make a bunch of money on KDP.